Welcome to the Leading at the Next Level podcast with Dove Development Consulting, the show built to provide ongoing support for your leadership journey. So, my wife, Cindy, not the Cynthia we're with today, but my wife, Cindy, and I have had the unique pleasure over the last several weeks or even a month or two now of doing some interviews with our partners, with the executive panelists for the upcoming Leadership Legacy Experience on June 13th at JMU's Atlantic Union Bank Center. What we're going to do today is something that's near and dear to me. It's with, we're going to start the process of doing interviews with board members for the Harrisonburg Professional Firefighters Foundation, who we're working with as our community partner for the event. Now, we're doing a couple neat things, and Cynthia and I will chat through this, and I'll give her a proper introduction shortly. But one of the things we're doing is we're working with partners for them to have the opportunity to become founding members of the 100 Club. Again, we'll talk about that more later, to help support this awesome foundation long term. The other thing we're doing is 5% of all ticket revenue outside of the partnerships is going directly to the foundation. So at the end of the event, we're going to do a big check presentation. I mean, literally a big check presentation and so on and so forth. Now, before I go any farther with any of that, I want to introduce a lady that's become a friend over the last several months, Cindy Prieto. And I want Cynthia, if you would share your professional background, because you've done some really amazing stuff. I believe you're retired now, but you don't look old enough to be retired. That's a whole different story we can have at some point. But talk about your professional background and some experience over time.
I am retired, professionally retired. I work on it very, very diligently. I was an educator for 34 years, retired as the principal at Harrisonburg High School. I came to this area from 29 years in education in Fairfax. Born and raised in Bogota, Colombia. Came to the United States with my family when it was time for all of us to go to college. My parents wanted us to go to colleges near their state. My mother's state is Illinois, and the company my father worked with is in Michigan. So finished my last year in high school in Michigan and went to Michigan State University, became an educator, came to Fairfax. I believe that there's a very, very close connection between the skills that I learned as an educator and being able to be part of for example, the Firefighters Foundation. The Harrisonburg Firefighters Foundation came to my attention because I was on another committee with somebody, and he was telling me that our firefighters started a foundation as like an emergency fund, which is the traditional format. But they were, in essence, working a full-time job and trying to start this foundation and do fundraising and the outreach. And it became a lot. And so one of their solutions was for them to invite all their colleagues or any of their colleagues that wanted to make donations out of every paycheck. And both this gentleman and I said, whoa, wait a minute. That is not fair. It is not right. You're in essence working double time and paying for your own emergency fund. Assumption, you're doing that anyway to try to raise your family and do all that you do as a member of the community. So that doesn't fly. And I think probably my biggest priority in education was always access. And for me, the word access is huge. I'm talking about access to an education. I'm talking access to services. I'm talking about access to opportunities, access to growth, access to repair if something doesn't go the way you plan it. I work with adolescents. Come on now. So access is really important. And so our firefighters need to have a foundation to be able to access everything. And for us in the foundation, yes, it is the emergency services. If something happens to a firefighter, on the job, for example, and there needs to be additional medical or, unfortunately, sometimes funeral expenses. And so there's a fund there that doesn't deplete that person's family's funds or individual funds, right? So we've expanded it, and it includes things like access to more education. There is education funding in the budget for the firefighters, and they do take advantage of it, and they take courses, and they recertify, and they expand. And if they want to take more than just the courses allotted, or they want to follow a path that would make them have additional skills to just firefighting, business, marketing, any of that stuff, leadership, then they can apply with a grant to this foundation, and we will help pay for that stuff. And so again, growth, opportunities, all that stuff for people to be their best person. For me, it's important because as an educator, often called public servant, our first responders, our medical professionals, these are the foundation of our community. And if we are not supporting them in every way possible, in my mind, we should pay them like we pay many other professions, athletes, diplomats, things like that. But we don't. They come, so how else can we support? And so that was my impetus and my drive for it.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into that purpose, but I want to qualify what I'm about to ask you. So as I wrote my recent book, and it's really the theme of the event, Leading with Clear Purpose, one of the stats that I found, I've got, we're doing this for the foundation. One of my very best lifelong friends, he's the deputy chief in Frederick County, about an hour north of us. He's going to be our MC for the event. But in looking at him and my friend Philip Reed, who you probably know, he was with Harrisonburg Police Department for a number of years. I'm looking at the stats, and across Virginia, the average starting wage for law enforcement and fire service was around $50,000 a year. Now, some are more, some are less, or average, right? But I'm looking at that, and I remember the last time my wife and I were in a Five Guys, and I see the sign on the door that says hiring assistant managers for $18 an hour. And I'm going to tell you, Five Guys slouched over on the counter, not paying attention to the customer that comes in for $18 an hour versus getting shot at, running, burning buildings, risking my life for 50,000. It's hard. And that clear purpose has to be there for them, right? And it is for every single one. For you, through your career as an educator, and I'm going to echo what you said about, oh my goodness, our public servants aren't paid enough, because especially compared to athletes, because public servants can actually make a difference, and athletes, I'll just stay away from that. But what was that clear purpose for you in what you did throughout your career, but also to be involved in the boards and whatnot? What was the thing that you think, hey, this gives me fulfillment for doing what I do?
Again, I think my purpose is access and opportunities, but I'm a self-avowed flaming extrovert. I think people are the most important resource we have, and you never know what's in a person. So I'm going to dovetail on your Five Guys. There are people where Five Guys and starting at minimum and going to assistant manager and going to manager and to maybe owning a franchise is their passion and purpose. And so we should make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think an athlete who is incredibly talented and wants to be the best fill in the blank football player possible, we should make that happen. And a lot of those have a lot of flash and flare, and some have absolutely no flash and flare. And our firefighters don't have flash and flare. They do what's needed. They have the adrenaline rush that, by the way, is not always the healthiest thing in the world to a body. And it happens every time, and as many times as it has to happen on that shift. So my clear purpose as an educator was to set everybody up for the best possible choices and opportunities, and to have options, to not always assume, oh, you look like this, so you must, therefore, you're tall, you play basketball, that sort of thing. And so make it possible for that person to dare to dream and to be their best. And so when I join a board, I join because whatever the purpose of that board somehow pings a passion or a motivation for me. And so how can I contribute? I am retired, and I always joke about it. And everybody who knows me says I do things because I can, because I'm retired. And I still want to be a contributing member of society. I still want to make my community the best and strongest community possible. And so how do I find those opportunities?
That's fantastic. And I jokingly say that I may never retire. One is a financial thing, because my wife trusted me enough for us to start a business. But the rest is, I feel like we can make an impact through what we do. So why would I retire from what we're doing at this point, right? Cindy, I came into the board and floated this idea of using this event that's coming up as the launching point for the 100 Club. But I'm going to back up and share over lunch at the galley about 14 months ago, as you and I are having this conversation. Matt Tobia says, I say to him, Matt, it's just me and my wife and our business. We're small. We have a good reach, but finances are limited because we're a small company. Mm-hmm. What can we do to bless you? And he says, I appreciate you asking. Here's something I'd like you to consider. You don't need to answer yes immediately. And he floats this idea. He tells me about the foundation. He tells me what you guys do as a board and all the things that you said earlier. And he says, I would like to help them start a 100 club. And he shared how it works in other cities and how that $100 a year commitment from dozens and dozens and dozens of companies, individually it's small, but collectively it can be gigantic and sustainable. How it really, he painted that picture for me. In your opinion, how can that, as we build it and more importantly sustain it, how can that impact what the Harrisonburg Professional Firefighters Foundation Board really does?
I think on several levels. On the most obvious and practical, it sets up a financial foundation that will continue to grow, that will continue to support, and that will be there whenever there's a need. Great. That is ultimately the practical, what do you do as a foundation? This is what we do, right? But on a more dare to dream level, it also is a great public relations platform for firefighters, for what they do and why they do it. And it takes away the distractions that allow them to do what they do. And so it puts the word out there that there is a foundation, and that if you have $20 that you would like to donate someplace, we just finished Great Community Give. I'm active on the Community Foundation. I believe in the Great Community Give, and I am always astounded by the generosity of our community. But I don't think that people know that in the Great Community Give, there were 150 nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that people know that those nonprofits cover the gamut. If you're into cats, you got it. You're into wildlife, you got it. If you're into nursing, you got it. If you're into arts, you got it. If you're into firefighters, you got it. If you're into medical profession, you got it. So if we can get the word out there, and I'm not talking about competition to take money away from other foundations or other great nonprofits and causes, but I'm talking, again, you add another layer of how the community supports. You're investing in your own, right? I hope never to have to call a firefighter for an emergency. But if I do, I want to know that the best are there and that their passion is there. And I want to know that I'll be well taken care of. And I do believe that that is the case with our firefighters. So it has a lot of value to get our word out there, to have people who say, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. It's $100. And you're right. For me and you, if we're looking at a corporation, $100 is not going to make or break a corporation. But that $100 times another 10 people, oh, wait a minute. Now we're talking about, we could do a couple more scholarships. We could help. Most recently, we've done things like help build a ramp for a family that needed, one of the family members of a firefighter needed access to their house. There, I use that word again. And so we can fund the supplies. And
Yeah.
I know for a fact that some of our guys, and they were some of the ones that started the foundation, actually helped build the ramp. And so we've done that. We've made a contribution to a medical bed that was necessary for somebody who was recovering. Just, you name it. This just makes us stronger, and it puts us out there.
100% correct. Gosh, and the bed were a couple things that really spoke to my heart. One is I worked in safety and human resources for a long time. I don't do much of that work anymore, but we're connected. And one of the things I saw, if we're hurt in the line of duty, if we're hurt on the job, there's workers' comp, albeit a portion of the pay and so on and so forth, but there's medical benefits and so on. If I'm hurt off the job, that's on me. And that medical bed, the medical bed was for someone that was hurt off the job, that comp and some of the different resources weren't available for. And oh, by the way,
but you want every opportunity for that person to get back on the job if possible.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's so powerful. And the other part that spoke to my heart about that was that wasn't in the city of Harrisonburg. And that really brings me to the Leadership Legacy event. So you just said, hey, it's not to compete with other nonprofits. And quite frankly, there are two other nonprofits that Cindy and I hold very, very close to our heart. One is the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, because they do so much with every dollar that they get. It's absolutely amazing. And we've worked closely with them for years on the events that we've held, to where we've done a very, very similar thing. And we're not taking away. We've given them some different stuff for this event. I won't go into that here. But another one is New Creation and the work that they do. But the reality is, it's not to compete. It's how do we build? And that bed was in Loudoun County. It wasn't just in Harrisonburg. And when Matt says, hey, can you help me? My first glance was, I want to, But my goodness, if it's just Harrisonburg and it's just professional and it's just firefighters, does it have the reach that we want to have? And as he explained, here's how our bylaws and how the board looks at each request. If there's funds there, it doesn't have to be Harrisonburg. It doesn't have to be city. It doesn't have to be firefighters. It's first.
And it's funny you'd bring that up because we've had many discussions as a foundation on, so what are our parameters? Where are our lane lines on things? And one of the biggest and most powerful lessons I learned was that firefighters consider themselves a community, and it's a
Mhm,
tight community. And I don't, they, initially it was said to me as a brotherhood, but there are so many women in it that I use the word community, and it
mhm,
is a network that's huge. So if there is a problem in Texas, all of these people know about it, and all of these people automatically think, can I help? How can I help? Now, I see my role as a board member as protecting those purse strings. And if an area has a deeper pocket than we have in Harrisonburg, or if there's a need in Harrisonburg and a need elsewhere, my focus is going to be the need in Harrisonburg. But I
mhm.
cannot undercut the fact that there is a community, and that every 5 cents you send to another for help, if everybody sends five, it's going to add up. It is going to help. And that is psychologically a huge support.
Yeah, it really is. Now, we had some interesting conversation early on as I came in, and Ryan introduced me, and hey, does the board want to lock arms with us on this event and so on? Why were you, because you had to be part of the vote, why were you willing to say, yeah, let's lock arms with Wes and Cindy Dove on this leadership legacy experience to help launch the 100 Club? And then after that, you guys had to decide, did you want this crazy hillbilly on your board? Why were you willing to entertain both of those? And maybe you voted no on both, but you're still willing to talk to me today. I'm not sure, but I don't think that was the case.
I didn't entertain it. It was an automatic heck yes, absolutely. Because in my mind, again, flaming extrovert here, the more people you know, the more your network is. And we know how networks are concentric circles. So the stronger that network becomes. So again, if we ever had a need, we know, call so and so, call so and so, call so and so. They'll call their so and so's, and they'll call their so and so's, and all of a sudden we've got this huge spread of people who are aware and willing to help and going to support. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. We're being offered an opportunity to make money. Hello, that's what we do, right? We're being offered an opportunity to get our purpose out there and our focus and our passion out there. Again, hello. So it just seemed like a logical, incredible opportunity.
Well, we are honored for the opportunity to help launch and really drive. And as you and I have this conversation right now, I know with 20 to 23 founding members, our goal for that day, personally, I've set in my head goal of having 50 founding 100 Club members. And while
Fabulous.
$5,000 isn't going to be set the world on fire for the foundation, annually, that's going to be a pretty cool thing. And to grow
Absolutely.
that over and over and over, it's going to be an
Absolutely.
even better thing.
Yes, absolutely. And it just gives us more opportunities to support.
Yeah, and to have that visibility, because some of those have said, "Hey, can we do more than 100?" And the answer is, "Yeah, but hold on. Let us get the 100 Club in
Let's
place
start.
first, and then
Let's
we can build
start.
on it."
Hmm.
Yep. Now, Cindy, what would you like the community to know? We've talked a lot about the foundation, and it's a privilege to be part of the board now and to be able to help even in a little way. What would you like the community to know about the foundation that they might not know?
I think that it's important to know that the foundation is made of a really, really great variety of people, walks of life, ages, generations, the whole bit, talents, professions. It's got everything on there, and it's got a completely combined and unified and very matched passion for the passion that the firefighters have. And if you look at the events that happen throughout our community, the firefighters are often involved. I'm talking in addition to stuff the bus, in addition to the smoke alarms and pizza events, in addition, I mean, they show up all over the place so that the community knows they're there, so that the community knows they support, and so the community knows they are members of the community. And I'm not only restricting it to Harrisonburg. The foundation is for only Harrisonburg, but a lot of our firefighters are also county residents. And so the network is not just the city of Harrisonburg. The network is there all around. And they step up, not just in emergencies, but they step up to be visible, to support, to make connections with kids so the kids know that they're there and that they feel safe. It's huge. And that passion needs to be shown everywhere and supported.
I, you've used the word network and community several different times, and I appreciate that. Community. I'm finishing up a book right now on values being the foundation for any organization, and one of our values with Dove Development and Consulting is community, and that really speaks to we're better through the people around us than we are by ourselves.
No doubt.
Because I've never considered myself to be very good at any one thing, but I've been blessed beyond measure through the relationships I've been able to develop. And that
Absolutely.
community is,
Without a doubt.
now you've shared about a few specifics, the ramp, the hospital bed. What's the project or the campaign that you've been most proud of during your time with the Harrisonburg Professional Firefighters Foundation Board?
My assumption is that you're thinking of a specific thing that we granted, and that's not where I come. I come from that my project was to get this foundation off the ground and have it be successful and have it make the connections, and have it. They don't need to build a community. They are a community. They're members of our community. But to have it be highlighted that this exists and that it is strong and that it merits even more foundation from everybody else. If that leads to other people being interested in becoming firefighters, heck yes, win-win. If that leads to us being able to support more firefighters in need, absolutely. One of the small things that we did was because of where we got involved in the budget cycle, there all of a sudden was a desire, this is not an emergency, for kettlebells for the firefighters training camp, that would then come back and be given to each of the firehouses. So again, health and wellness, fitness, sharing, because at the training camp, it wasn't only Harrisonburg firefighters, community building by sharing, right? And so it seems like, so you bought kettlebells, big deal. Yeah. But you know what? You're putting something in and it multiplies and comes back. There's no doubt about it. And so for me, the biggest push was to make sure that it was successful, make sure that we became involved in things like Great Community Give, make sure that we got our faces out there so that people knew that there was an interest in supporting our firefighters and our first responders. And so I would say that would be my passion.
That's an amazing answer, because it's not a thing, it's the thing. And you said earlier there were 3 or 4 firefighters that had started the foundation, and it was through their own payroll deduction or whatever that process was. And that's no longer what it is. It's got reach, and you've been instrumental in doing that. Here's my goal. I'm pretty averse to being on boards because let me come in and help get things done, but just for the sake of sitting in a meeting, and I'm not saying that's this board. I'm going to say
I'm with you.
Every board I've been a part of in my life, I'm a get shit done guy. Excuse me.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
And so on. And my wife says, please don't take on another board because you'll just get angry. But all that said, my goal would be, how do we grow that 100 club to 50 to 100 to 200 organizations? And then you can say, hey, Wes, get on out of here. We don't need your craziness anymore. We got this. And that would be fantastic. Now, you've mentioned your own fulfillment. When you were starting to look at the organization, the Harrisonburg Professional Firefighters Foundation Board, how did the values, the purpose of that board align with your own personal values and purpose to where you said, yeah, this is absolutely something I want to be a part of?
Well, first of all, let's be real. I was invited by Ryan to talk about this. And then in that meeting, we then decided people's roles. And I was like, oh, we're not talking, we're doing. We are the board. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, hang on. I'm already on a couple of boards. But back to, it's about people. And I can bring in my former experiences and my former passions, unfortunately, one of the ones that we funded was a scholarship for an offspring of a firefighter that passed. And I'm thinking we need to give this little person hope, future, dare to dream, and we need to put our money where our mouth is. So where food was taken care of, funeral expenses were taken care of, could we put something in there for this child and to have them, they've just lost a parent. Okay. So have them be able to see that there is future and that what their parent was doing was important and that people are saying, we got you, let's help you. And for me, that's education, that's opportunity, that's access, that's growth, and it's hope.
That's fantastic. Now, I'm going to go off script a little bit. You said the name Ryan, and I teared up because the interaction I've had through Matt Toby and now with the board with Ryan Sodikoff has been one of those relationships that I'm thinking, my goodness, I'm blessed beyond measure yet again, because what a fantastic human being. And I knew some of that. I baited you a little bit with that question. Talk about him a little bit and how the two of you worked to found it. I knew that was the background, and I intentionally asked the question in the way I did, but talk about Ryan just a little bit and your interaction with him.
So Ryan is an ideas person. He's a passionate person. He's got good energy. And I'm a very detail and organized person. And I also have passion and ideas and creativity. And so together we work really well. We bounce off of each other really well. And so when he says, I have this thing and this is the situation, I can totally get where he's coming from. And we both passionately felt that this was not okay, that these guys were funding their own fund. And so what can we do about it? And he's got his connections through Stephen Toyota and all that stuff. And I have my skills and talents through having been an educator and through knowing our community. And it's just a win-win. And so he comes at it and he will ask a question, or he'll say, what about this? This is my opinion. And I'll say, whoa, hang on. But this and this and this and this. And he'll go, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And so it's a great conversation. We'll get together, we'll do lunch, and it's like jabber the whole time. And then in the end, it's like, so let's do this. And we're both like, yeah, let's do that. And it just works. And it's his passion that drives a lot.
Yeah. He's told me two things that I've seen shown in everything that he's done. He said, first, we're not in the car business, we're in the people business.
Yes.
And
yes,
Cindy, I hear people say things like that a lot. I don't see people do things like that a lot.
yes,
He does. He also says, he said they've adopted the tagline, Stephen Toyota loves Harrisonburg. And I watched through their action that he absolutely models that.
So I'm going to put this out there. I don't think Ryan minds my telling. He was telling me the story. The sort of thing that Ryan does often is he went through the drive-through, was ordering lunch, got to talking, because he'll talk to anybody. He'll make friends at the post office line. I mean, that's just how he does. And so he got to talking to this person, and this person was saying that things had gotten complicated and that he wasn't getting paid enough, and that was just open to opportunities and all that stuff. And he said, how much you making? And the person said, this is how much I'm making. And he said, oh, I'll tell you what, if you're willing, put in your notice. You got to do it correctly. Put in your notice and come on over and we'll train you. Multiple years later, this person is a professional car salesperson and is very successful and has a family that he is now able to much more non-stressly support. And again, growth opportunities. And that's just Ryan. He saw something in this person, saw that there was a potential and a value, and said, let me offer a plan. If you're game, come on. And now look what happened.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Absolutely it is. Again, it's one of those relationships that I'm going, hey, praise God, I get to know this guy. It's really, really cool. As a final question, then I'll open it up for you to share anything that I've missed. What advice you've got to mentor, you've got to sow into so many young folks over the years. What advice would you give to a young professional? Because the work that my wife and I do is how do we help people grow as leaders, not specifically supervisors and managers, because you can have a title. I tell people all the time, I can set my garage and it ain't gonna make me a car. Being a supervisor or manager does not make me a leader. What advice would you give a young person that wants to grow and become a successful leader and really earn that kind of influence?
I would absolutely echo your title doesn't make you anything. It is a title. It does come with a certain rank. I'm old enough and old school
Mhm.
enough to believe that age, experience, rank has some credibility, right? But your title doesn't make you a leader. And I don't think that leaders have to be formal. They can be informal leaders. And I think that what I would say to anybody is seek out any and every opportunity, no matter how small it is. And if the opportunity is, you mentioned the food bank, if the opportunity is sorting food in the background in the food bank and getting it ready to get processed through, the amount of processing that Blue Ridge Area Food Bank does is astounding. And so every hand on deck is so important and so valuable. And you never know who you're working beside that you make a connection with, that you realize you can both promote each other, or they can promote you, you can promote them in growing and in being better. And so those informal leadership opportunities are out there. You don't become successful by saying, I'm going to join a board and I'm going to be the president of the board. Here we go. No, you get involved in it, and you find opportunities to learn about it, figure out if it is a match for you, figure about if you bring skills to it, what can you add to the cause, and how can you forward the purpose. So to everybody, especially young people, don't get tunnel visioned on these are the steps to get to so and so, because you can go this way and still get there. It doesn't have to be a systematic, and you never ever know when there's an opportunity. Um, in college, I was always the one. If people said, "Hey, let's go," such, I'm thinking road trip. Let's do it, because you never know where it ends up. I had no intention of going into education. That was not my plan. I went into school in pre-vet, and I was going to be a veterinarian. Okay, and so 34 years later, I mean, the first year I finished teaching and went home, packed up all my stuff, went back home for the summer. And I said to my parents, man, that was fun. That was so cool, blah, blah. And my mother said, you never go out the front door. You're always in the back door and and you're just all over the place. And look where you end up, right? And so I think always be open to opportunities, and always be open to reaching out and adding your strength, your energy, your skills, your creativity to something, because you never know what comes of it. And you never know who's there that sees you do, that says, I want to work with that person on my team, or I could really benefit from having that person in my group. And so find opportunities.
100%. It goes back to community and relationships and networking. Well said. What have I not
Absolutely.
asked you that I should ask you?
Gosh, I don't know. I think those questions were pretty well lined up. Just find your purpose and follow it, and you never know what your purpose is. As an educator, Harrisonburg Firefighters Foundation Board, who'd have thunk? And look, no. So yeah, just I don't think so. I think we've hit it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I believe in burnout, but I believe burnout happens when people don't have a purpose driving them.
Hmm.
I don't think burnout happens when you're chasing purpose. Because I work
No,
a whole lot of hours and I'm more excited today than I was 10 years ago. It,
I would agree. I would say for me, the balance, and I had to find it after retiring because my job was 24/7 and I loved it.
mhm.
I was blessed with the absolutely best opportunities in the whole trajectory of my career. I have no complaints, but I had to learn um, how to work hard and play hard. And I watched one of my parents retire without hobbies, without anything,
Mhm.
and wanting to go back into contracting or something, because that was the passion, that was the interest. And I'm not faulting it,
Mhm.
but I thought, no, I want to do whatever happens and whatever opportunities they are. So I'm going to work hard and I'm going to play hard. And I do. I go into a board and I say, guys, I believe in traveling. So there are times in which I'll zoom in, or I'll, speakerphone in or whatever. But
Mhm.
if somebody says road trip, I'm out, you know? And so find a balance, but really tap it. Be open to everything.
Absolutely. Love it. Cindy, thank you for taking the time to do this. I'll wrap
Thank you.
the conversation up. I share that if you're hearing this and you need continuing education credit, we, Dove Development Consulting, have invested heavily into being able to provide that through some of our digital resources, one of which is the full Leading at the Next Level program. As we share this, I think we're north of 160 hours worth of content we've built into that particular course. And so
that's wonderful.
it's a heck of a lot of work too, but we're pretty excited about it. If you have a need and you're hearing us, reach out to me at admin@dove-development.net, and I'll give you a complimentary 45-day all-access trial to kick the tires to see if it serves you. And
Do
it. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for taking the time. We look forward to seeing anybody listening at the Leadership Legacy Experience. Make it a great day. And
I'm looking forward to it.
And we appreciate you locking arms with us and helping us out on the event.
Thanks, Wes.
Yes, ma'am. See everyone soon.